Hunter Biden and his lawyers reached an agreement with the federal prosecutors in Delaware to terminate all the criminal investigations of him, which would result in a guilty plea of 2 misdemeanors of failure to pay your taxes on time and a pretrial diversionary program of lying on an application to obtain a gun. Many will say, of course, and justifiably so, that this is a slap on the wrist. It's a very light penalty for misbehavior of this magnitude. The tax bill is $1.4 million. That's not the income on which the tax is to be paid. That's the tax bill, $1.4 million. So obviously, he still has to pay that, but he only has to undergo probation for about 2 years because he pleaded guilty to the misdemeanor version of it. In terms of the gun, he was charged with lying under oath. So when you go to buy a weapon in the United States, you have to fulfill state requirements. Some states have no requirements. Some states mirror the federal requirements. Some states, like New Jersey, have more requirements than the feds. And then you still have to satisfy the federal requirement. One of the federal requirements is that you not be a habitual drug user. When he was asked this question on his gun application, he said, no, he is not. Then he wrote an autobiography in which he said he was. So the feds felt obliged to prosecute him for this. On this one, it's not a guilty plea. On this one, it's called pretrial intervention, meaning before he's tried and before he's even indicted, he can enter a probationary program. And if he fulfills the requirements of the probationary program, which will mean absolute total abstinence from alcohol or any controlled dangerous substance or even marijuana in states where it's legal, if he meets the requirements of that program, then the gun charges will be dropped. Now, who is the prosecutor? Well, the prosecutor was appointed by, you ready for this? Donald Trump. Right. This is the same federal prosecutor that Trump appointed when he was in the White House to be the chief federal prosecutor for the state of Delaware. Joe Biden, now it turns out brilliantly, wisely, decided to leave this prosecutor in place rather than putting his own person there. Usually, when a president of the opposite party comes in, all 70 U.S. attorneys resign. Sometimes you have to fire them. They won't resign. In Biden's case, he kept some on, and this is one of the Trump prosecutors that he kept on. Did Merrick Garland, the attorney general, have to approve this deal for Hunter Biden? Answer, no. This does not rise to the level that requires the U.S. attorney in Wilmington, Delaware, to go to Washington, D.C. for permission. This is not like Jack Smith asking a grand jury to indict Donald Trump. This is a lower level prosecution for which the U.S. attorney has total and absolute authority to resolve it however he wants. Now, what becomes of it? Well, they'll go before a judge. If they haven't done so already today, it'll be very soon. Now, here's interesting because judges take two attitudes on this. One is, well, I'm not a potted plant. I'm the judge in this case. I'm not going to approve this just because both sides want it. I'm going to look at it. If I think the punishment is too light, I'm going to reject the guilty plea. If I think the government is demanding too much, I'm going to reject the guilty plea. And when I reject the guilty plea, I'm going to say, file your indictment. We'll start the trial in 6 months. That's one attitude. The other judicial attitude is, I'm just the judge. These people come into my courtroom with an agreement. Good. I'll accept the agreement. The case is over. If it satisfies the government and it satisfies the defendant, why should I get involved? The latter is the view of most judges and probably will be the view of the federal judge in this case. Now, I don't want to prejudge the judge. I don't know who the judge is. I don't know her or his record on guilty pleas, but most judges, federal and state, are reluctant to disturb a guilty plea that has been carefully crafted by the government and by defense counsel. We'll know either in a few hours or at the most in a few days. Once the terms of the guilty plea are announced, the government wants to put it on the record right away because the defendant accepts the guilty plea under oath. And once he does that, that's it. He can't really change his mind under extreme circumstances not necessary to address here.